A lot of people who follow me on this channel are aspiring authors. The latest surveys show that 87% of people want to write a book one day. Well, here's the problem with that. Most books that you could think of writing are probably the wrong book for you, meaning they're not going to get you the results that you want from life, from your work, from your career. The outcome, you'll write the book, it'll be done, it'll be a monumental effort, and then 15 people will buy it. Here is a little tip for first-time authors that will change everything for you. And it's part of what we do on Daily Persuasion. This is why I ask you to like, subscribe, and comment to this show, because every day I look at what's going on in the news, what's going on in the world, and we see, what can we take away from this? Who's persuading who? Who's doing it well? What can we take away from that? What we're noticing in publishing in 2024, and I expect to see this in 2025 as well, is use of puns as book titles. The reason that puns work is you take something that you already know, you already understand, you already get, because it's called a linguistic anchor. These are called linguistic anchors. Something that means something. Words that mean something already have density of meaning that already exists in their mind. And when you say it, it's like an anchor that sinks. It goes down because of how dense it is. For example, reproductive rights. Sink. That phrase, that term, has so much meaning in it already to you personally that it sinks it. It is dense. It is a linguistic anchor. So imagine you were writing a pro-life book on reproductive rights, and you called it, you already know what I'm going to say, Reproductive Wrongs. How the abortion industry scams women out of the most fertile years of their lives, makes them destroy their offspring, and ruin themselves forever. Something like that, okay? I just made it up completely on the spot using a linguistic anchor. I did that myself with this book right here called So Good They Call You a Fake, available in audio, hardcover, and digital from Amazon. It is my magnum opus on my ghostwriting career. Originally, it was titled 12 Years a Ghostwriter. There's a book by Cal Newport that has sold very well for more than a decade, based on a Steve Martin, the comedian, quote, which is, "Be so good they can't ignore you." Well, the problem with that advice in the age of social media viral content is anyone can pretend to be good. You have these fly-by-night funnel builders who throw up a marketing funnel, buy all manner of social proof and fake reviews, and convince you to buy their crap from Instagram. And they become multimillionaires, and you have a crap product. They were so good you couldn't ignore them, and look how well that turned out for everybody. Meanwhile, the people who are actually good at building that product are languishing in obscurity because no one's ever heard of it, because they don't know how to get attention. The solution is in a pun, or rather is taking what's already well known and turning it a little bit. So in that case, my book is called So Good They Call You a Fake. So it's not just being good they can't ignore you. It's being so good that people don't even believe it. They say, that's fake. No way. Inauthentic. Scam. Photoshopped. Right? People see my earnings receipts as a ghostwriter and they say, obviously this guy's lying. No way. Oh, look at his tax return. It's photoshopped. Right? I went viral in 2022 and became niche famous and was the #1 news story on social media for the first weekend of December 2022, when I wrote in a thread analyzing female characters in fiction, be that shows, film, graphic novels and comic books, novels, short stories, and how the modern female heroine character is a very poor version of a male running a hero's journey, because they speed run it, where the story starts and the woman is perfect already, entirely as she is. All she needed to do was believe in herself. This is how the 100-pound girl can beat up the baddies who are 300 pounds and have machine guns and knives with no training. It's just, girl power. Boss babe. Hashtag. Okay? That's the Mary Sue. She's good at everything immediately all at once, and it's like she speed ran the hero's journey. And so she starts the hero's journey at the end. And she's not even a man. She's not a hero. She's a heroine. Women do not have the hero's journey. It is different. The hero's journey is for men. The equivalent for women is something like the Snow White story. It is something like the Little Mermaid. It is something like Cinderella. The religious archetype is the Blessed Virgin Mary. That is the heroine's journey, her story, from the Catholic tradition, from the Orthodox tradition, the Theotokos, right? I recommend approaching the esoteric and mystical forms of religion now, because for so long in the Western world, we've had an enlightenment overcorrection on superstition. There's been in everything. The Master and His Emissary is a fantastic book that talks about the reunification of the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. Left hemisphere being science, facts, reason, logic. Right hemisphere being intuition, the muse, vibes, experience within the soul, transcendence. I do not recommend you focus on a religion that is just left hemisphere. I suggest a religious tradition. If you're Christian, for example, I encourage you to explore the Orthodox faiths. I've recently attended a Vespers. I've been going to Mass for 4 months. Catholic tradition, I recommend that as well. I carry a rosary in my left pocket at all times. This is what I recommend for you. Perhaps I've already persuaded you to take it a little seriously. Perhaps you're already searching traditional Latin Mass near me. Perhaps you're already searching Divine Liturgy Orthodox near me on Google Maps or on Google or on whatever device you're searching for. Perhaps you're already looking up service times to find out when you can go. I'm not even asking you to join, I'm just asking you to go. I'm asking you to experience it with the right hemisphere of your brain. Experience the vibes, the ritual, the esotericism, the sacred mysteries. Fantastic, wonderful. And if nothing more, you have come to this video to be persuaded in and around that fact. Now, returning to books and authorship, whatever it is that you have in mind to write as your book, I'm going to advise you to pull up your favorite ChatGPT, Claude. Some people are using Pseudo-Write. That's the first AI tool that I ever used. I absolutely loved it. I'm going to recommend that you pull up your book idea. Just type it out. I want to write a book about this. Please write me 10 pun-based titles for this book based on this topic, similar to how Joshua Lisec wrote So Good They Call You a Fake, which riffs on the Cal Newport book, So Good They Can't Ignore You. Okay, that's a long prompt, but you kind of get the idea. I think something like that would be fantastic for you. I recommend it. I do. Most people this time of year are getting around the hearth. They're having a dinner, and you're getting asked by your uncle or by your in-laws about the book you once talked about writing last Christmas, and you got no updates. Well, now, guess what? You can talk about a title. The great thing about using puns, and we see this in popular fiction, look at every bestseller list, go to any bookstore, and you're going to see the nonfiction bestsellers are puns. They're like walking, talking dad jokes. It's just fantastic. It really is. It really is. And what you are going to experience from this is you writing the right book. And I'll say one last thing. I should want to give you $20 based on the title alone of your book. Successful yet obscure entrepreneurs, services providers, experts, authorities, consultants, coaches who have heard the title So Good They Call You a Fake, they say, oh, that's hilarious, kind of scary, I need it. That's the response. Where do I buy it? Everyone wants that. The subtitle to my book that I co-authored, it was a New York Times bestseller with Jack Posobiec earlier in 2024. I had 2 New York Times bestsellers this year. It was called Unhumans. The subtitle, The Secret History of Communist Revolutions and How to Crush Them. Every Republican, conservative, and reasonable centrist classical liberal had to buy that book. It sold many tens of thousands of copies. It was the #1 best-selling book in America during the most consequential month in American history, July 2024, between the soft coup of Joe Biden and the attempted assassination of Donald J. Trump and the murder of Corey Compatory. I was there at Butler for the reunion. It was incredible. 100,000 person memorial service there in the front row with the Corey Compatory family. And then J.D. Vance endorsed Unhumans. And then Jack Posobiec and I wrote Bulletproof, which is the first and only book that covers the attempted assassinations, and Donald Trump himself endorsed that book. You can look it up. Fantastic experience for this country, for this world. Tragedy, of course, but there's no triumph without sacrifice. And so the other book that was a New York Times bestseller that I co-authored this year is called Lies I Taught in Medical School. Yeah, like everybody wants to read that book. Getting a call. Maybe it's important. Not sure. Oh well. Lies I Taught in Medical School, which I co-authored with Dr. Robert Lufkin over at UCLA's medical school. It's really a book about longevity. People who care about the latest science in medicine, longevity research, they got to get a hold of that book. Nutrition, health, wellness, crazy. You got to get it. And that, of course, is a riff on Ken Berry's book, Lies My Doctor Told Me. You see? So the best books are going to be a riff on something else. They're going to be nods to, allusions to something else. And do this little exercise with your favorite AI. They're basically free nowadays. I like Grok from X. That's Elon Musk's AI. Apparently he threw it together in like 6 weeks, and it doesn't show. But that's the power of laying off 80% of your corporate workforce. The government should do that. Great example for the Department of Government Efficiency coming up here. So there's a lot I've covered today. Probably some things you didn't expect me to cover, but I did anyway, because that's why I'm here. That's Daily Persuasion. If I'm not persuading you to think differently or act differently, then what's the purpose of this show? See, this show is itself an experiment. It's about persuasion, but we also want to see if I can persuade you to do things or think about things or speak or live differently just from watching the show. Isn't that cool? It's a social experiment, this channel, you might say. I'm coming up on episode 100. I'm going to do 500 episodes and then reevaluate the direction of the channel, whether or not I want to keep doing it. And if you like this, you really want me to keep going, please send this episode to an aspiring author in your life or someone who is religious curious, or both, because that's most people. There's a lot here. So of those titles, the 10 that you come up with via the prompt, think about which one is closest to a complete stranger reads this and gives me $20 for it. That's probably the winner. That's probably the correct book for you to write. That's all for now. You have a Merry Christmas, and I'll check you back soon.